But for those of you who are new here, or this is just your first time joining any sort of webinar from ZoomCharts, this is the top 5 announcement webinar. What we do here is we go through the top 5 reports that we have decided are from this challenge, and we're going to be going through them and giving our feedback. The feedback is purely personal, right? The way and how we feel about the reports, what we think could have been done a little bit better, what things we think have been executed flawlessly or very in a very interesting way or something like that. So it's just going to be our raw feedback for it. We're going to go through them, and of course, they're going to be showcased in a random order because at the end of the webinar, we're going to also be announcing the winner of the challenge. And at the very end of the webinar, we're also going to be leaving a little bit of time for some questions. So make sure that if you do have any questions, and they don't necessarily have to be regarding your report, right? If you just see something that we're talking about, if you see something interesting and you want to ask about it, go ahead. Just write a comment, and we're going to try to respond to every single one of your questions. If we're not able to respond to it directly, or it just takes a little bit more time to prepare an answer for that, right? Because not everything can be covered in 30 seconds or a minute. In those cases, we also encourage you to just write your questions to webinars@zoomcharts.com so that we're able to just answer to them afterwards. And of course, if you're just a little bit shy and don't want to ask it publicly, you can also use the email, right? We don't judge. It's completely fine as long as you feel comfortable with it. All right.
Yeah,
I think
don't
it's time
hesitate.
to,
Reach out.
absolutely. I think it's time to start the show, right? So let's find the right screen, share it, hide this, and let's go through the reports. So, like I said, this particular webinar is going to be regarding the May 2025 challenge for Onyx Data. And the first challenge report that has gotten itself into the top 5 comes from Ferzy John Diaz. So, congratulations, Ferzy, in getting into the top 5. Now, let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. Now, for this one, I'm actually going to give the first hand to Artis. So, Artis, tell me what to do, what to look at, and let's see what are your thoughts about it.
First of all, I just want to start off with saying what a beautiful color scheme. I'm a very color oriented person. You'll hear of this a lot in the webinar, and that I do care about my color, and this just looks beautiful from my side. But I do actually want to go to country level analysis, kind of skip over overview for now, because this is something that actually caught my eye. I didn't see it in any other reports right now. Maybe it has been in the past or not, but this is something that I really like. A great use of our map visual, easy to read data from an end user. I just think about this as if management gave me the cities or countries and just purely showed, okay, this city essentially is gaining 47.98 revenue out of the entire market that we have. This one is 37, this one is 12, this one is 2. And another more interesting thing is just the way how he uses space in this report in total as well. Right now you can see total revenue by brand and model, again just using these drill downs, which you can see a lot in the sales overview if we go back. But here you can see Apple, and then going into brands in sales overview, it's the same thing. Just keeping it tight, making the visuals bigger, and also having a little bit of the side data on the side, top selling brands, top selling products, recent orders. But you can see in total units sold by gender, age group, and country, again saving so much space just by using this drill down, and then being easy to understand what you can look in under there. Because I think, again, one of the best things that you can do with our visuals is using these drill downs and utilizing the space. Because sometimes you can put a lot of visuals in, and it
Mhm.
would show these different things. Or you can just use few visuals with drill downs, and you save space for something else, making a bigger combo chart, making a top selling products table, with pictures as well included.
Absolutely.
um, one thing that I didn't enjoy that much, at least from like a user's experience, in total units sold, the first thing you see is the numbers there, right? You can see Android and iOS. The only problem is that the number that you can see there isn't really the total units sold. It's the average units sold in that month, which is kind of counterproductive regarding, you want to see actually the total units sold if it's called total units sold. But it's a really a nitpick, since you can't see that number once you press on May. You can see it in the card visual there as well, so you can see how much is the total units sold anyway.
Mhm.
So it's a way you do show it. It's just maybe have a little note saying what are the numbers on the combo visual.
Absolutely. it was actually one of my comments as well. Like one of the things that I've noticed throughout the challenge, and actually before I even go into this challenge, one thing that I want to give a shout out to everybody is I'm very impressed on how much you actually guys have improved over the time. Because this month there were a lot of great submissions and a lot of progress from you. So just shout out to everybody. But still, few things that you just forget and just absolutely forget and do not do. And one of them is number formatting. As much as I fully understand how easy it is to use the auto function, right? So it just automatically adapts and shows how many decimals and everything you showcase. At the same time, you have so much unutilized space, I feel, in these cards that I much rather would prefer that you showcase instead of just 19K, you would give me the full number. It doesn't go into hundreds of thousands, it doesn't go into millions. So five numbers should be kind of easy to read for a person, right? That's just five numbers, especially if you also don't forget to add thousand separators. So it's easier for a human brain to just read the number properly, because otherwise this is what you would see, right? For example, 43595, which is fine, but imagine if you have five or six numbers, right? Those thousand separators make a lot of difference. So that would be one of the things that I would probably do here, at least for total units in revenue, just make them a little bit more detailed. Because 15 mil could be a lot of things. It could be 15.5, 15.5 if you're just rounding things up. I don't know exactly how much it is. So that's one thing if I nitpick sort of. But the thing that I really liked about this is, of course, the use of cards for switches between the values. That's great.
Yes.
As far as the value label itself goes, I would 100% put it outside of the chart. I'm not a fan when labels are on top of the chart because I feel that in a lot of the cases, what happens is it kind of obstructs the view. So having it outside of the chart gives you enough space to showcase the chart itself and the value a little bit separately. But those again are little nitpicks, right? Like for example, here it works just fine, but especially if you have like stack charts or something like that, it just makes things look a little bit more messy. Having them specifically positioned outside would be a lot better approach here, I feel like. I like the little approach of having some like main KPIs, right? Top selling brands, top selling products, which is cool.
You can
If we go
always
to the,
for them
yeah,
as
go
well,
ahead.
which is I think a great thing to have.
Absolutely. If we go to the country level analysis, I like this approach, but there are a few things that I would have done here differently, at least where I would have paid a little bit more attention to. One of them is if you look at the maps itself, right? Country, cool, country, cool, country, cool, Pakistan, country, cool. Suddenly there's a split. If you don't have a split for any other country, do not introduce a split randomly for one selected country. Keep it consistent. The reason why I don't like this approach in this case specifically is because these maps actually allow you to cross filter information still. That's another thing. I would have disabled it. But because we have shapes that don't have any data,
Mm.
I can very quickly just break it again. Right? So if you would just have a single shape for the country, like you have it for Turkey or India, if I click on it, I cross filter the same information, right? I would make sure to disable the cross filtering actually because right now, otherwise, it seems like it's 100%. Well, of course, it's 100% because I filtered out India and it's only sales for India, right? So just play again. Don't forget to play around with your visuals. Don't be afraid to play around because that is what exactly your user is going to be doing. You know how you're supposed to be using this report, right? They don't. They're just going to be clicking around and pressing on everything that is possible to press.
That is
So,
actually exactly how I went through the process. I was trying to think of not like as a person who actually has experience with reports, but as a person who wants to see data, everything that you can see. So everything that I could click on, I tried to click on, and yeah, it of course did the same. I actually didn't click on the separated part to get a zero value. I somehow just didn't get to it because I was clicking on the other
that's
ones.
because I know
But
what to
see,
look
yeah.
for.
Okay, so you can either be lucky or unlucky regarding who
Yeah,
is your end user.
definitely. But yeah, overall, I feel that the report is very well made. I like the approach of overall country level and product insight analysis. For the product insight analysis, again, just few little things is that, for example, these are ordered alphabetically, which is completely fine. But the one thing that it's a little annoyance, right? It's not bad, but every single time, for example, right here, search phone model looks okay. If I click on it, it moves up, and it's kind of hard to read. It's because of the way and how the visual works. So what you should have done is played around with it, understood that there is a chance that it might move up and down, and just increase the search box a bit, right? Make sure that it still fits in. If it's within the box and it moves a little bit, sure, it's a little annoyance, but now the text is on top of a line. Line makes it hard to read. Trust me, somebody's gonna give you that feedback regardless.
Yeah, and one more thing from my side is that when I opened first Product Insights, actually somehow I started on a different phone rather than iPhone 14, which you can see in the bottom bar, right? I started on a Pixel 9, which is all the way to the right side. Plus, it's not that easy to actually see the scroll itself. I guess
Hmm.
that's the only thing I could have said about the color that isn't great. But the question is, how does it pick out which one to be the first one, right? I mean, if you set it out to be as the highest selling phone or non-highest, I mean, maybe order it that way, it would be at least a little bit easier to understand. But of course, you can go alphabetically and just go through every single one if you want. Maybe that's easier for maybe go brand wise. Is I think it actually does go brand wise. It's oh no, it's
No, no, no.
Galaxy. No, Z Fold is all the way in the end.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I
Yeah.
mean, you
So
can use the filter panel, which is fine, for example, just to kind of cross filter one. But you know, there are a few things that you could have been done a little bit differently here. I still love the one fact that thank God you decided to add the reset button. I think it's still one of the most important things in every single report. You can tell me whatever you want, but a proper report cannot exist without a reset.
I completely agree with you. I think that that is also my nitpick for every report I check. That's the first thing I check. Because you want to, especially if let's look at the side of a as a person, as a manager who doesn't make their own reports, right? Like I just got this report, and if there wasn't a reset button, so I'd click on some things. I click on total units sold, drill down into the total units sold by age group, or even and then select a month, whichever you want, right? And now I want to go back, so I'd
Hmm.
have to manually click either on every single thing back, or just reset.
Yep,
It's so much
absolutely,
easier because people on the other side won't always do it as precisely as you would, you know. So that's a
absolutely.
thing to keep in mind.
But overall, definitely, congratulations on being in the top five. It's an amazing report. So kudos to you for developing this. Amazing job.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one. So the next report that has gotten itself into the top five comes from
Drum
Sai
roll.
Krishna Tumidi. Do-do-do-do-do. Congratulations. So let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. So there are a few things that I think are very interesting in this report, and it's something that might be taken note of. And there are certain things that I think should have been done definitely differently. Like, for example, one of the things that I like is this little quick insight, right? I think it's something that you could utilize a lot more in reports, but you have to also be very cautious about it. I've seen good use cases for this. Like, for example, in this page, there's one primary sort of analytical insight, completely okay with it. I've had reports where this is done on basically every single chart. At that point, I start to feel, yeah, this is just tidy little bit too much because you don't know where to focus because you have an insight here, 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 here. Just your eyes are just scrolling all around. But I like this one. The one thing though about the insight that I would definitely done differently is because just purely on how our brain works. If we're talking about the top, I want to know the top, the second, the third, right? Whereas in your definition, you can see you go from third to second to first. And I first thought maybe just it's an oversight. But no, since it dynamically follows. So, for example, if I switch a month, you can see the top is going to also adapt and change once it decides to filter. There we go. But you can see this also changes, right? So it always goes to third to second to first, which felt to me counterintuitive. I want to know the biggest contributor, the second, the third. I still see all of three of them, but I still have to go through all three of them to know who's the biggest contributor in that little insight, right? So that's just a very small little thing that I noticed here. What else? If we go around the cards, the metrics, I'll applaud you for the fact that you're not showcasing anything unless I have selected the month. That's a good point that you have caught there. So unless I have pre-selected the month, you can see there's no comparison after against the previous month. So that's a nice touch here. The storage size probably would have gone again with a similar idea that starting from the smallest going through the highest. So there's an order to things. So it's not just kind of thrown out a bit. But regarding these, there's another comment that I noticed and it kind of confused me a little bit. you're essentially utilizing type of cards. Well, not cards, sorry, one type of slicer. You have a different type of slicer. And if we go to market analysis, I think it was, you have a third type of slicer. I know this is a field parameter, the other ones are slicers and so forth, but if you have items that essentially do the same thing, just in different variations, right? Make sure they look and feel the same so the user knows what to kind of expect from it, because otherwise you kind of say, okay, does this do the same or does it do something else? Okay, it actually seems like it does the same as this one. So these sort of things, make sure that similar elements that look and feel the same way so I know what to expect from it. Overall, from the overview page, I liked it. I don't think it's too overly complicated. There's too many details. For the product analysis, I probably would have went with a little bit less in the cards, right? That's one thing that I noticed here. Under market analysis, I think it was, I would definitely not do this. So what you're doing is essentially you have a column chart and a map visual that showcase exactly the same information. I think it kind of becomes obsolete at that point. Either use the map or use the column chart. Or introduce a switch that allows the user to choose which approach he wants to look at.
And
That
from
would
my
be fine as
side,
well. Yeah,
it
go ahead.
also feels like the map chart is kind of a little bit out of place with the rest of the report. It doesn't follow exactly the same color code. It doesn't feel like it's supposed to be there. It's more of like an add-on afterwards. It's great
Hmm.
that you did use a map. I enjoy maps. I'm a big fan of map visuals, and especially ours one. But compared to a little bit others, how I've seen in these reports, in these challenges, I've seen it done a little bit better. So maybe if you putting a little bit more emphasis onto how to make it more precise and more well done. And again, same thing that you did, total revenue by country. Again, two things explaining how the country did it. So if you are doing this way, maybe then don't use a map if it's easier for you. But of course, it's great to try it. It's great to see how it looks. Also, again, I'm gonna continue talking about color in every single one of these. I personally don't like it. I feel like there's everything is just falling. Like it's hard to focus on some informations because it's all just so bland and all is literally looking like at the same thing.
Hmm.
It's a little bit hard to focus on some portions of the information. Uh, let's say something was higher, something was lower, especially in like let's look at total revenue by storage size and gender. It's quite hard to see which one is the highest one if we're looking at quickly. Of course, you can see 5.7 million or 4.74 million, right? But at least if you would emphasize a little bit on the first one, it'll be just a slight bit easier to focus on which one is actually the biggest one without pointing too much attention on it. From my side again, because imagine somebody else is looking at the visual, going through all of it, and it's going to be taking him a little bit of while to focus on what he needs to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like one thing that we do constantly remind you guys, right? Don't be afraid to just give the reports to just your friends, your spouses, whatever it is, just so they can kind of play around it and give you that first initial feedback. Because at the end of the day, the biggest issue with report developing is that you know what to expect from it. And that is a big flaw because you're not trying to do things randomly, which is what users do. Okay, at first I'm supposed to do select something here, then select something here. For them, it's like, oh, three charts, click, click, click. I think I broke it. And that's the reality, and you have to kind of understand it. But yeah, whilst we're here, this is what I was talking about, for example, for the number formatting. I think all of us can agree that reading this is not fast. I
I
would,
think it's a million, right?
so I would just do this, right? Three numbers, three. Okay, it's 1.7 mil. This is what I would do. But if I would have 1,000 separator, I wouldn't have to do that. So just
Yeah.
small little things, but they do make a lot of difference. A few things that I liked about this report very much is, for example, if I select a filter right here, for example, I selected the storage size, and if I hover over filters applied, I have a tooltip that tells me what filters have been applied. So that's an amazing touch. Kudos for that.
It's similar to how you have if somebody will so yeah, again, drill down and you can actually see which things have been selected,
Hmm.
and okay, let's say you didn't have a reset button at this, you would at least know of what is going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Few other I probably say last comments for this one before we move on to the next one is the navigation. The navigation is something that I would probably rework, and here's why. Initially, when I came into the report page, I'll be completely honest, since I have this sidebar, this is what I thought is going to be the main navigation bar. I didn't kind of focus on these initially, right? I noticed them afterwards. So what I started to play around, okay, open menu, it gives me, okay, mobile view, country view. So you're giving even more emphasis on that this is going to be something important, right? There's also filters. Filters, I would probably just add a little white line here to kind of separate them a little bit more, but that's already nitpicking. Uh, the problem here is that these are actually separate views that you can open, and these are going to be tables underneath, right? Which is like,
Yeah.
okay,
I
fine.
don't think it's a bad thing because a lot of
No,
people still like to look at tables.
no, it's definitely not a bad thing. What I'm saying is, I would have probably switched them around or have them all here, because right now it feels like there's two types of navigation. I would have it consistently in one side. That's just my approach. And the other thing is, if I open up both of them, I have to click twice to get back to sort of like the initial state of things. So it's just one thing that I would double check as well. Whenever you're creating navigation, here's an example of page navigation and bookmark navigation. So if you have saved bookmarks, bookmarks saves all the states of all the elements at that particular time. Page navigation physically just moves between the pages. It doesn't close any open menus and nothing, right? So if I went now to product analysis from overview where I had one of those views opened, I don't have it here, but if I go back to overview, it's going to be right here, right? So one other thing is you kind of want to make sure that there's consistent experience. If he clicks on a page, you probably want him to start here because these are additional items that he can open up. So bookmarks versus page navigation is something you have to consider also when developing the report. But overall, I'd say it's a very good report. It's not too overly complicated. There are interesting things definitely being created here. So kudos to you for creating this one as well.
Yeah,
All right, let's go to the next one.
exactly what he said.
Clear and simple.
Yeah,
All right, the next report that has gotten itself into the top five comes from Chakradar, Montana. So congratulations, Chakradar, getting into the
congrats.
top five. Let's open up and take a closer look at it. Artist, you want to
Yeah.
go ahead and yeah?
First idea that comes off, dark mode. Nice. Thank you very much. It's dark, it's nice. Imagine opening this report up in the middle of the night, have to look at have to crunch some numbers to understand. You did this. It's amazing. I like it. Of course, if you're talking more about the actual report itself, first thing that I saw what actually was in this, let's say in the customer, we're actually in the customer page. Can
Yeah,
we go to the overview?
my apologies.
Yes. So if you're starting off in the overview page, there are some places where you could actually again save some space with the drill downs. I know you can actually do it with country here. That's the only one you can do it with country, and then you go into cities. But in the products page, nothing was able to drill down. You can actually find any information additionally for that. Plus, it's also a plus and a minus from my point of view is that you always have the average selling price as you're using the combo chart very well. You're using both a line and the bar or a column, but I have the feeling of so we're looking at units sold, right? Or we're looking at transactions. I don't know why we need to also see average selling price always there, since they're two separate values that you would be looking at. So you try to just put it everywhere, which is I like it because you're using the visual pretty well. Like you're using two of these things. Plus, could have added an area chart as well. But at some points, it just feels like, what's it even doing there? Because that's the only KPI that isn't changing. Everything else is changing, but the average selling price isn't. And I mean, in some reports it would have been nice, especially where there's sales. But since you can also change all the time sales volume, and transactions, again, feels a little bit redundant to use it everywhere.
Hmm.
What else? In the customers page, actually,
Yeah.
is one of my favorite things. best way how using slicers. I think it looks really pretty. Brand, mobile, model, color, storage size, OS, price range. Pretty much choose any way how you want to drill down into it. Afterwards, when you do select them, so all of the drill downs that I mentioned before, you gain them back into customer. I think you just wanted to make sure that everything that you could be drilling down could be there. One thing that you can see is if you deselect, so if you go to just reset everything, um, there's actually a reset button as well, which is
Yeah.
great,
Mhm.
lovely. So you also have colors selected. So you only have brand, and everything goes by the top sold in sales in brands and in cities and countries and gender. If you deselect brand, it goes alphabetically. It kind of starts just thinking of why couldn't you continue using it as the biggest selling points, like again either by age group, by city, by country, by gender, without involving the brand. That's one thing that it looks different, because again, after pressing every other one, it goes from the top to bottom. Here it just starts making a weird column. That's maybe an oversight, because yeah, if you press color, see again everything going from top to bottom or from the highest to lowest. As soon as you deselect it, it stops. That's one thing that I didn't enjoy that much. That I feel like it wasn't maybe thought of. But the second thing that I really really do like is that there's a filter on top, onto the right top side, that you can actually make it sure that you filter exactly what you want. So even people who don't have a lot of experience with using Power BI, so an end user in my case, what I'm looking at, he could still filter anything that he would want to see without worrying that he's clicking somewhere incorrectly or correctly. So, and it works on any page, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's main insights from my side.
Totally agree. For this one, what I would probably would have done is actually kind of something close to this one, right? I like the fact that you already tell me what is being filtered, but I would love to know what I'm filtering exactly. Because right now you're giving me the dimension, right? So ideally, it would tell me the dimension plus the value. That would be ideal. But it's something that can easily be interpreted and changed afterwards. That's not the greatest concern. Um, when I opened up the report, the first thing that I noticed, and I think was something that could have been done a little bit differently, is you do have a reset. Thanks for that. But I think the reset should have been next to the filters. It just felt more intuitive. And I'll explain you why, right? Whenever you play around with the report, sure, you have your resources, and I don't think reset is a resource. That's one thing. I think it's a navigational tool or a toolbar item, basically. But when I start to filter out different things, I see, okay, there's actually filters. I can go here, I can open it up and clear all the filters. And reset kind of felt more natural just being here. For me, the reason why I usually also put it in the top right corner, it's quite simple. People are used to closing tabs, applications, and everything, and basically starting all over by pressing the X, which is right here.
Don't do it.
Book. But yeah, this is just how I'm used to things, right? Maybe that's just my personal preference, that I think that filters and reset, they kind of go together. So I would have probably kept it there, made this a little bit smaller, had the reset right here because you have the room to do it. So I think that would have been a little bit better. But again, that's my thing. Uh, Overall, I love the report. I'm a fan of dark themes. I prefer dark themes on every single app, every single
Team
everything I
Dark.
have. Exactly. I know there's gonna be a lot of hate, but it's personal preference. So kudos for making a dark theme work, because not a lot of people can actually make it work. A lot of people try to do it, but they kind of start to mix a lot of different colors. There's not enough contrast in some cases. You've done it very well. So kudos to that. One thing though that kind of confused me a little bit when it came to the initial view was, if you look at these three cards, these primary cards, right? Transaction, sales volume, and sales. If you look at the same field parameters that allow you to switch between them, it seems like they're in the counterwise sort of order. So you start with sales, sales volume, transactions, whereas here's transaction, sales volume, sales. So by starting off on the very first view, which is overview, by sales, that's the default point of entry, right? The sales is actually somewhere right here. It's not the first thing that I notice afterwards. I would have changed them just in order so it follows the same logic. It's also going to be easier for the user to kind of understand, okay, that's the first KPI, second KPI, third KPI. That's just something from my side. If we go to the second page, which was the product, um, regarding the ordering, and this is actually in some of the reports, what artists already mentioned, right, regarding the ordering that it's switching, there's good and bad in that. And I'll tell you why. Like, for example, if you look at this chart, thank God you did it in the correct way. Because I think if you're doing something in a specific way, like, for example, talking about price ranges, it should be in a price range order. You start from the smallest and you go up in the list. That allows you to understand the distribution of the values, right? If your main focus is just understanding who's the highest, well, then you introduce also some conditional formatting or something like that to highlight the particular bar. That's one way on how you can do it. If we go to the customers page, and this is exactly the same that artists were talking about, right? If we select something, you're going with the top value, which is understandable, but if you remove it, you go in alphabetical order. For these charts, I probably wouldn't change the order because right now it's always gonna. There we go. You know, it's a live session, right? Things are always never gonna work like you expect, so it's fine. Come on, don't don't do this to me. There we go. So this is the order I would actually expect from this chart, but I would expect it not to change when I add additional dimensions. Since we're talking about age groups, I also want to understand the distribution, right? Whether it's the younger segment, whether it's the middle age, whether it's the older age, the segment that's being utilizing or buying particular phones. For this one, I would keep it like this. For the rest of them, I would most likely just focus on the value itself. Unless there's a particular reason why you want to focus on cities by alphabet or countries by alphabet, right? I would focus on the value. Whereas for these sort of charts where there is order in the categories itself, it's very important to keep it consistent. Because like otherwise, like artists already mentioned, right? It kind of breaks your way on how you read the values.
Yeah,
Because
because I don't think the age group is the first thing you see there. It's like, okay, you see 3.1 million. Ah, okay, that's a 2633, and then you don't even think about what's coming next.
yeah, and the issue with this is that if you remove this, you don't even pay attention, and you're like, oh, okay, the same group went to 2.6 mil. It's
Yeah,
not the case. So you have to be cautious about it. Don't whatever you do, don't switch this around. Keep it consistent throughout the experience. But again, this is something you can just easily play around with custom sorting mechanisms, or even sometimes it's enough to just go by default sorting and just defining what column is being used for the sort. So that goes for that. Reset works great. So if I select something, it allows me to just reset the page. That's all good. Glossary, I think it's a nice touch, explaining all the values, what I actually mean, and what they're kind of how they're created. So that's all good. A guide. Thank God for giving me the skip option. Never forget about it, guys. Right? We've had a couple of cases where guides are not just overlays, but actually like a guided tour going through the pages, explaining different versions and so forth, and not giving us the skip. Always make sure that the user can just leave the view if he doesn't want to continue with it. Portfolio LinkedIn, that's all fine. Like overall, I think it's a very good report. It's well made. Regarding the average sales, what artist mentioned, probably it's a tricky, right? Because you can't really dynamically put it on and off. But I understand the comment, and probably would have actually done
I mean,
something.
I think putting it in one visual would be fine, but then putting it in every single visual is a bit questionable.
Yeah, because one thing that I probably would have done is if it would be the first time user, I might actually keep it here so that they know or get used to that it is actually possible. But if I have a training session with them, I would say that they can always disable it. That's one thing. And the other thing is you can do the vice versa through the formatting options. You can actually, through the formatting options, say that, for example, this series is not loaded by default. So the way it would look like is this, right? You would still have the series in the legends. They can enable it if they want to, but it's not always there. So that's another way on how you can essentially play around with it. But yeah, overall, I'd say it's a very good report, very well made. So congratulations on getting into the top five. Very good job. All right, let's go to the next one. Yeah,
Yes.
the next submission that has gotten itself into the top five comes from Jude Rashi. So congratulations to you. Let's open up
Well
the
done.
report and take a closer look. Um, Anything you want to say about this first, or you want me to go first?
You can go first because mine is. I want to put this as one of the last things I want to say. I have a certain thing about this report. I don't know if you're going to say it, but I'm going to say it afterwards in the end for this
Okay.
report. Yeah. So go ahead.
For me, first thing first and foremost, where's the reset, right? And I noticed this because I started to play around with the charts. I start selecting something here, I select something here, and then I realized that the only way for me to kind of get back is because I was trying to click on sales overview, because sometimes you can essentially use the same bookmark, right, to clear everything, but it's not doing anything. So what I have to do is just clear all the selections and everything from every single chart, and that's not going to be user friendly. So reset, make sure you have it in your report. It's a very small thing, right? It's annoying how much we talk about it, but it's that important. So make sure you add it. Using cards as field parameters, nice touch, very good approach. One thing that I noticed here, which I want to say, good catch that you actually caught it, is that if I select, for example, a month, you can see this doesn't cross filter the line itself. So it doesn't just leave one single marker, right? You still keep the whole line. So I'm happy with that. However, if I cross filter something else, like for example, a channel, for example, online channel, you can see this adapts. So you have cross chart filtering there, but for only relevant charts. So that touch I like. Um, at the same time, like, or not really like, I noticed that a lot of people love to put in designs that just feel like an app, for example, right? But at the same time, why do I have icons which do nothing? And for this one, I actually feel it's an opportunity missed. Because you might have this, right? The bell icon with the notification symbol and everything, and utilize this, for example, to give me some insights. Have it an active item which I can click and it opens up a tab, for example, it showcases me. The top selling brand is this, top selling this is this. It just very quick insights and not too overwhelming. So I think it's more of an opportunity missed, right? Rather than something else. So that's one thing. The dashboard guide is here. That's all fine. We can close it. If we go to customer behavior, very similar approach, same color palette. The color palette is actually very nice. And I don't know what it is, but I think phones for some reason bring out the blue in reports. I don't know why, but it's just what I've noticed through all the submissions.
Hey,
um,
sometimes people have their preferences,
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
global preferences somehow.
Absolutely. When it comes to phones, it's blue. The correlation chart for the scatter plot. I like that you actually utilize the labels for the areas. It's a nice touch, and it kind of allows you to create those quadrants and allow people to focus on certain areas for it. So I like that touch. The regional analysis as well. For this one, I actually like what you've done with the map. Sure, there are a few things that could have been still done a little bit differently, but what I love about it is you can see it right here, right? You can see the whole map. Sure, water is water. Well, we can get rid of water. Well, you could theoretically by just removing the base layer, but if I choose one of the countries, it reshifts the focus and only highlights that particular country, right? So it kind of allows you to focus on that area. Now, what I would have done differently is you allow the user to still, for example, click and select something from this map. What I would have done probably is disable that cross chart interaction so that this map doesn't let out anything, but it allows you to filter to the map, right? That's one thing that I would probably kind of
Yeah, because it's
utilize a
using
little
the
bit
map
different.
as a filter, right? It's using all the
Yeah,
countries.
because you're already filtering out by the country level. The city itself, sure, maybe, but
I
I
had a
don't know.
question actually with this visual. Maybe you can help me with this because I was playing with it and I was trying to understand. So you can see some of the pies have a lighter blue and a darker blue,
hmm
and pressing on them does nothing. Do you know what they mean?
I mean, it's probably split by OS or something, maybe, but I have no idea.
I was trying it, but if you go to the left side, so there's record of sales, and I've tried to just get Samsung on. I'm just pressing on like a Samsung. It still would show two different colors, so it's not even OS, and I couldn't understand that. So
Let's see. This
getting
one's
this
dark.
one's only like this. Yeah, I think you have to. Somehow I don't know how, but I got it.
Hmm.
Or maybe I went to to a city. I don't know, but I know I had it somehow that it would only show me one of them. But overall, yeah.
Oh, I think I know. What he's done here is every single slice represents a city within that region or the cluster.
Oh,
Because
so I just had to zoom in.
yeah, because right now you can see you have two of them. If we zoom in, they're separated. So this color is actually not representing a particular category. It's just identifying that there are two cities underneath it, and that's the split between them. The one thing that is though missing then is a tooltip, because otherwise, yeah, you're gonna have the same questions as Artis had. Like, what is this split? What does it mean?
Yeah, and I mean, if I would click on one of them, then I would surely presume that I would be just going to that city rather than just staying the same. You know,
Yeah,
at least having a functionality. But you know, it's still, it has a map visual that looks nice, and that it allows you to actually see the information. One thing that I would still do in this one as well is that once you get to this page, you can only see by one of these four countries. You can't filter it any way differently.
yeah. Well, this month and maybe a phone if
Well,
you find the correct one. Yeah.
additionally afterwards from that country, yeah, but you're always going to see only one of these four, which is fine, as long as you have revenue per month and records of sales like this in different pages as well, so you can see the full page.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Anyway, one more thing that I really wanted to say about this is the scatter chart. Yeah, you already mentioned it, but I'm just a lover of scatter charts, and amazing job. Good thing that you included it. Wait, if you, and the good thing is if you press on it, it goes down to model. The only problem is once you get to model, the labels don't make sense.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I mean, I guess you could say there's a budget iPhone, there's a mass market iPhone, there's a premium core, but you know, in general sense, I guess it wouldn't make that much. But the fact that there's a functionality that you can go to it is just nice.
no,
Again,
no,
using
definitely.
the capability of the download. And the thing that I wanted to say about this report, I think, which sums it up really well, this feels, if especially if you go to the sales overview page, this feels like something you would see in a blog post saying about all the phone sales in the world uh, in 2024. This really feels like a thing, a report that you could show to the entire world, and they would look at it. And, oh yeah, this is a, like a mobile phone sales of everything, right? And I don't know. It feels like a blog posty thing rather than like inside companies metric to look at reports. I don't know. I guess the whole feel of it just looks that way. Especially you have Onyx Data, ZoomCharts, and JR. They're like branding there, and then there's the phone on top. It just feels very playful in a way, which isn't a bad thing. I think making reports fun to use for the end user, even if it's in the company, is a good thing because they will want to then use the reports more rather than just looking at it. And then you have to show people that everything is better than Excel. Everything is better than looking at table. I don't know. I'm not against Excel. It's just that I think it's much easier to read data like this, and making it more fun and interactive for the users is always great. So, but this whole report just does feel like a report that you would see on the blog post on any blog pages about general phone sales,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
good or not good depends on you.
Yeah, who's the judge of that? We're not.
We're
We're
not.
just saying it feels good. All right. So yeah, congratulations on getting into the top five. So let's go to the last report that has gotten into the top five for this month's challenge, and that is going to be from Itiksha Metal. So congratulations for you. Let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. Now, the one thing I like about this report is the overall feel of it, right? It feels very sort of separated enough that I have enough information, but at the same time, I feel there's a lot of unused space, right? Doesn't mean that I necessarily want you to add more elements. No, I just feel that, for example, if you look at the cards, the 15M feels like it's being squeezed to the right bottom corner. Here, it feels like it's a little bit higher. Like the positioning of it feels a little bit off, right? So it should be, if you visually tell me that this has been going to be separated into two blocks, I expect these values to be in the center of the block, right? Or the same side and the same positioning of it. So that's one thing. The other thing, as well as I mentioned before, like for example, don't forget about the decimal numbers. Like if we look, for example, at I think it was payments, maybe. Yeah, payments
Oh
showed
yeah,
it clearly. So the reason why I was talking about this, if you look here, right, cash, credit, EMI, 4 mil, 4 mil, 4 mil, 3 mil, right? That's the rounding principle that's being used. No decimal numbers. If I look at the revenue, if I collapse all the categories, you can see, well, it basically goes from 4 mil, which is rounded up, from 3.6 to 3.9 almost, right? So there's a bit of a difference between those, right? I'm sure, yeah, for billion-dollar companies, that's not the major issue, but not everyone's a billionaire. And
yeah.
I think kind of losing almost 300K it would be very important to know. So just adding a few decimals, make sure that the user understands the difference between the number, how exactly are they being represented, and so forth. So that's one thing that I would have done here differently. The number formatting, don't neglect it. It's very important to have properly readable numbers straight away. What else? If you look at the initial view, the one thing that unfortunately has been forgotten is the proper definition for the DAX. So, for example, month over month, it changes. You can see here it's one way written, the other way written, and it's this font size is changed and so forth. But my main issue is that right now I'm looking at the whole year. So, what is the month over month? Which months am I comparing? The average of month over month, or what exactly does it show me currently? So that's my one issue with it. um, the table looks fine. The only thing that I would probably remove from it is this progress, because honestly, and that's just me, maybe artist, you can tell me if you understand what it means. I don't get what the progress is.
It's definitely correlated with the percentage that you can see
W-
on the right side
but
from the
which
month
one?
over month. Again, I don't know. It doesn't say, but if you do click on a month, it would help you a bit.
Because right now, if you look, this is almost 4.3k percent, and this is smaller than this, which is minus 37. See, this is my problem, right? I want to understand it completely, but right now it just doesn't allow me to do that. That's one thing. Overall, I really like the design. I like that you still have the possibility, for example, to select different categories to cross filter the information. That's all fine. Under the customers, I like the insights, but be very careful as soon as you start to add color. You're telling me that this is going to be something that's relevant. And if I look at this, so Apple is going to be red. Cool. If I look here at the table, which doesn't have any additional explanation, there's red here and there's green here, which is also in the inside, but the apple is green, but here apple is red. Like, what is the metric against what? Why is it green or why is it red? Explain to me what am I currently looking at. That's why you could utilize the title for it. Because otherwise, I don't really know. I think it's probably a nice feature. It allows me to highlight something, but I just don't know what it's highlighting.
Also, if we're looking at, you're giving the insight and you're color coding the companies, you can use the color code, the colors that the companies use.
Yeah,
Essentially, it's much. Samsung would be blue. Um, Apple
probably
black.
black. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, you can probably find that information online, but it's just the one more thing that you can look into, especially if you, as from the end user point of view, again, a manager looking at, you pretty much know which color is which color, like which company is which color, and
Hmm.
changing it up, you know.
Absolutely. But yeah, overall, I like that it's a sort of design of it. It also feels a little bit, like you said, it feels like an app. It's something like a quick overview. It feels like it's something that you would see in CRM systems and like predefined reports and so forth. So it's very well designed. The only other issue I had with this one is I can clearly see that you are utilizing the new cards, right? For example, right here, where you had all the different Apple, Google, different brands and everything. The problem with this is that these are dynamic, which means that you're utilizing space dynamically based on necessity, which also means that If I decide to break it, and I'm going to break it in a second, I'm going to go ahead, for example, for red, and select a particular month. Come on, allow me to cross filter, buddy. There we go. See? The new card dynamically rearranges itself because there is now more additional space, so it separates things evenly. But that also breaks completely the layout. Again, it's not a big deal. You can fix this. Well, it is a big deal, but you can easily fix this. It's not the end of the world. So I would just rework on these, make sure that the user cannot get what I just did, basically just by breaking everything. And it's the same approach everywhere. Since we're focusing here, like if we choose, for example, a particular value like female, and in specific, yeah, there we go. Suddenly we even change logos. Cross filtering, guys. Play around with your visuals. Just because on the first click everything seems to be fine doesn't mean that it is well made at the core of it. Play around with them. Don't be afraid to break them. If you break them, it's even better. Then you can fix it and make sure it doesn't happen again. It's quite simple. Artist, from your side.
Yeah, unfortunately, from looking at this page, you're giving so much space for all the brands, but at no point do you. Of course, you have on the left side, you can actually filter it. You can see brand and then choose to filter it by the brand. Uh, but it would be, and then it only shows one. And top is just broken. I don't want to even talk about that, but it just feels like you could also just filter it from the uh, cards itself. That could help a little bit because I think nowhere
Mhm.
in the report, if you go into customer and payment, you don't actually have a specific phone information. There's a table, everything. Customer again, I think it has something with phone size, but no branding. No, this one wasn't it. And in location, I think it also didn't have it. Yeah. So can't really look by just select by one brand and see how the revenue went through, how everything else, unless you pick this and hopefully nothing breaks. Here it works, which is great. I think it's fine using the filter there, but those filters on the left side are really easy to miss if you're not looking for them
Mhm.
specifically. And it would be great if they would have similar situation how you could how you're showing the top four ones: summary, customer, payment, location. It's just something from like the visual side, and because on the overview page it screams that you want to click OnePlus, Google, Apple, Samsung, Xiaomi.
Yeah.
uh, sh- uh, I don't know. And there's one more thing, the price underneath. Can you tell me what the price is for that? What is it referring to? I know what it is. I checked.
No idea.
Okay, so it's the average price of the transaction. So if you add this price times transactions, you would get the 3 million.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Yeah, you no, actually you would get those numbers.
No, no. I'm
That's how
saying
it's been
maybe
calculated.
that's not the number you want to show.
Yeah, again, it's an average price of transaction, which is an average. So you could then show average price. I mean, and either give us more information, what does it say, or don't give us at all, because it also happens in the location. It also happens, I think, in payment. So it's a thing that if you don't know, if the end user can't really figure out why is it there, it shouldn't be there, or you need to tell them why is it there rather than making him do calculations to understand why is it there.
Yeah, definitely.
But other than that, it's visually appealing to look at. I like it, and using primarily, if you can go around the report, primarily they use donut as a slicer, which I prefer. I think it's better than just using specific names, since you get information and you can use it as a slicer. So that's good. I mean, just nice looking report overall with some nitpicking, uh, as we've seen. But anything could be nitpicked. Even you could give us the best report ever, we would still find something to nitpick about because it's
Oh,
in the
trust
end.
me, it doesn't matter who makes it. Even I make reports, and there's still going to be things that you dislike. It's just how it is. That's one thing that I want to also kind of tell to the report developers is don't get too attached to your reports. Sure, make sure you create the best work that you can possibly do, but there's always going to be different opinions. The sooner you understand this, the better. You, as a report developer, you have to have expertise behind the scenes. So you need to understand why you're using this visual, why you're utilizing this particular thing or not. But at the end of the day, the customer might have a completely different view on things. So it's up to discussion, negotiating, and understanding, okay, what's going to be the end result that we're developing here? It's not a straight line. It never really is a straight line.
Yeah, I mean, but in the end, look, once you start developing reports, you're probably developing them for a certain company. You know the end users, you know how they react, you know what
Absolutely.
they're gonna do. So it's gonna be much easier to tailor them to a specific people rather than to me and Ivis, who just randomly, let's say, would pick up 100 reports and probably find everything that's wrong with them or nothing that's wrong with them. Again, depending on the time of the day and where the moon is.
Yeah, yeah. All right. What I'm going to do is quickly hide my screen. I'm going to find the report that is going to be the winner for this month.
Can you guess what it is, guys?
Guys,
Does anyone
guesses
have any
whilst I'm setting things up.
specifics that or which you wished that could win? Maybe then you're correct as well.
Okay, doing this. So, the winning report for this month is. Let's go live. Push live.
Go live.
There we go. Chakradar Montana. So congratulations, Chakradar, and being the winner of this month's challenge. In our opinion, it was the best report overall. Overall, the design, the technical things, the data quality itself, the data cleanliness, and so forth. So congratulations in winning this month's challenge. Yeah, artist.
Dark theme for the
Anything?
win.
Yeah, what can I say? But
Yeah,
yeah, just so you guys know that it wasn't bias, right? It wasn't just me or artists going through these reports. No, there are other people involved into this.
and
So it's not
people who
just
don't
because we
like
like dark
dark
theme.
teams. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. We actually people who dislike dark themes. So it's fine.
Um, it
There's a
just
fine balance.
yeah, this report did have so much information, everything that you could ask for. Again, also from an end user point of view, you could just uh, if you need a report to gain all the information, you would get it here. Definitely, probably in the other ones as well. It's just this one did it the best from these ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, congratulations, Chakradar. And one more thing that I want to do is let me quickly hide the screen again because I wanted to open up something else and I wanted to quickly do a shout out for two additional reports which we have from the judges. So give me a sec. They just deserve a shout out as well. They were very close to being in the top five as well. So where's my stream? Where's my stream? There it is. Let's push this live now. So, special shout out to two additional participants. One of them is going to be, once we go live, is going to be Misha Riaz. So, Misha, congratulations. There's a shout out for design. Very well made, very interesting sort of approach and how you handled everything. So, congratulations.
Yeah, beautiful design.
Absolutely. And another one that we wanted to give a shout out for was for Danish Said. For Danish, we gave a shout out for the way and how the analysis was being handled. So we really like that approach. So congratulations to you as well. And you can clearly see, right? It's definitely not the Mac OS top, right? No,
Oh
no,
no, no. Actually, when I
no.
looked at that, when I wanted to press those buttons again.
Yeah, so that's the
Although
thing.
I'm not used to Mac, but yeah, it's just feel it.
But still, every single element that you're gonna have here, there people are gonna want to press it. So be careful with that. But overall, still very good. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for joining. I hope that the session itself was interesting and you managed to get something useful out of this, right? Some insights or some tips and tricks. Um, but yeah, thank you for joining, and we will see you in the next workshop for Onyx Data. Artis, any
Thank
last
you
word from
for
you?
thank you for having me. It was nice to look at some mobile
Pleasure.
phone data. It's been a while, and it was nice talking with you, of course, and with all the people in the chat.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.